Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is video 2 of my Grow Along With Me series, where we're learning how much food can be grown in a small space. Last week we set up our growing area and filled a large grow bag with bulky soil, and then topped it up with some all-purpose compost. We then placed it in a sunny location, though we probably should have done that first. This week we're going to plant some onion and garlic sets, which take a while to mature. Before we do that though, we need to start this week by watering the growing area thoroughly. If your compost is new, it's likely to be bone dry like mine. It's really easy to get watering wrong, and we've all done it at some stage. We'll do it properly this time, and it will give our growing area a great head start for when the summer hits. It's easy to water too little and too often. A much better and efficient way to water is to water less often but really soak the soil. First, water the soil with a couple of full watering cans. Then we need to check the soil. Grab a trowel or just use your hand and move the top inch or few centimetres of compost to one side. As you can see here, just below the surface the compost is still dry. The water hasn't penetrated yet and likely flowed down the easiest route at the sides to the bottom of the bag. If we planted into this now, the seedlings would struggle to get a good root system in place before they wilted and died. So let's keep watering, letting the water soak away first and then testing until the top section is nicely saturated. Now for the fun bit, grab your onion sets, and I'm going to try and get 20 in a small section of this grow bag. Next you need a tool to plant these with. If you have one, a dibber is perfect. If you don't, a stick will do, or a trusty finger. I'm going to use a stick to show you that you won't need any expensive tools to grow your own food. Note the depth of the set on your planting device, and draw a line on it at this point if it makes it easier to see. That's the depth that we need to plant to. It's easy to waste space, so start right up at the edge of the growing area and make your first hole. Drop a set into the hole, with its pointy side facing up, and give it a poke. You could easily grow just 20 onions in this bag, but that's not a great use of space, so make the second hole close to the first. And then keep going until they're all gone. I've got mine in 2 lines of 9 with a couple to the side. Don't worry about keeping it neat, and you don't have to follow my shapes. You may be using a few big pots rather than a bag, or it may be a different size. And then make yourself a label so you don't plant anything else here. I use lollipop sticks because they'd just go in the bin otherwise. If you do use the plastic labels, I recommend writing on them in pencil so they can be reused later, and you can save yourself some money. I'm also going to put some dividers in place, but this is more for me and pacing out these videos for you, so you can ignore this step if you want. Lastly, the garlic. Grab a bulb and break it into its cloves. I'm going to plant 5, which will give us between 40 and 50 cloves to cook with when they're harvested. Like before, check the length of the clove against your tool. You don't need a big space between these and the onions, so make a line of holes close to the line of onions. And then drop the cloves into the holes pointy side up again, and make yourself another label and pop that in nearby. The last step is to cover these with a little compost so the birds don't pinch them. And that's week 2 done. We won't need to water this right away as the soil is saturated now, but do keep an eye on it over the next week to make sure it doesn't dry out. The sun is really starting to shine now, so next week we can sow something which is a little faster growing. Let's go for carrots. I'm going to be sowing one of these smaller varieties, but you could also sow radish instead if you're a bigger fan of that. Or do both, go crazy. Thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel and for helping me pay for seeds and soil and stuff. And thank you to you. I'll see you all next week, and happy growing.